Over 2,500 years ago, the Buddha said something to the effect of, chasing your desires, expecting to have your desires fulfilled and bring you happiness, is like drinking salt water, expecting to quench your thirst. That you will simply become thirstier. So chasing your desires, you will simply have more desires and you will never find the happiness that you're seeking. And when we look at the wealthiest countries in the world, where we have an abundance of material goods, of comforts, of pleasures, of just readily available things, anything that we can think of, any desire that we have can basically be fulfilled. We also have the highest rates of suicide, of depression, of anxiety, of physical pain, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. How can the wealthiest countries in the world have so much misery? But it's because we are abusing another one of our survival pathways. And so for today's class, we're going to talk about the motivation reward pathway. This is the pathway that we think is bringing us happiness. And like we discussed 2 weeks ago with the stress response, and last week with the default mode network, the mind-wandering part of our brain, those systems are backfiring on us in the 21st century, and so is the motivation reward pathway backfiring on us. And so it's helpful to always take this in context to understand how these systems evolved. If you consider our ancestors, they're out one day and they're searching for watering holes. They're looking for new water sources. In their quest to go and find water, their brain, their motivation reward pathway, releases dopamine to give them the focus, the energy, the motivation, the drive to go and find water, and to also leave the safety and the comfort of the camp to go and find something that they need to survive. So it helps them stay on track. It gives them motivation to overcome the obstacles, to climb the hills, to keep going. They need water. And when they finally get to that point and they find the watering hole and they're all excited and they're jumping around, yay, we found the water. At that point, the dopamine tapers off because they've got the reward. Now the next day, let's say they're going back to the same watering hole and they're not entirely sure if they can remember the way, and they're not sure if it's still the good watering hole. Are there any crocodiles, or is there any reason why it's maybe not going to be there today? So that little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of dopamine. But then the third, the fourth, the fifth day, no more dopamine, because you know this watering hole now. You've got the reward. You needed water. Now go find new water sources. Now go find new food sources. Now go find new things that you can make tools out of. Now go find new mates that you can procreate with and pass on your lineage. Now go find new caves. It is a seek and find and seek and find and seek and find pathway. It is not a seek and find and be satisfied pathway, a seek and find and be happy pathway. It is meant to give us the motivation, the focus, the energy, the drive to go and get a reward that will help us survive. But in the 21st century, we've hijacked this pathway, and it works in some very different ways for us. I'll give you just a common example. 21st century, we're out on the hunt for a new outfit. And we get in our car and we're getting that little dopamine, the dopamine's rising because we're on the hunt. We want to go get a new outfit for some big event that's coming up. And you get to the mall and you're in the stores and you're looking for something. And let's say you don't find anything. And you feel that disappointment. And it is disappointment. It's dopamine disappointment. You're not finding anything. And you're starting to crash. And that's the point where you can turn to your friends and you say, let's go to the food court. Let's get some Let's get a Cinnabon. Let's get some French fries. Let's get something that can basically take my dopamine back up. I don't like this feeling. But then let's say in that last moment, another friend says, but look at this dress. Did you see this dress, Meredith? No, I didn't. That looks beautiful. So you go in the dressing room and you're trying on the dress, and it's a beautiful dress. Now we have a little bit between our other animals, lizards, worms, that all have this motivation reward pathway. There is a little bit of we have a bonus part to this pathway. Our prefrontal cortex is a part of it. It can subjectively add qualities onto the object that the object doesn't have, ramping up our dopamine, making it a more highly anticipated reward. So I'm in the dressing room and we're looking at it and we're looking at ourselves and we're saying to ourselves, oh my God, I look amazing in this dress. This is amazing. I'm going to wear this dress to the party and I'm going to be so confident and I'm going to feel so good and everyone's just going to think I'm such a great person because of this dress. Like, these are the qualities that we are putting on this dress. And then we decide, of course, we're going to get the dress. This is an amazing dress. We go out to the cashier. The moment we hand over our credit card, our dopamine levels start to drop off because we've got the reward. We've got the dress. And it's why we then go out one door and go right into another store. And we keep doing this. We're on the hunt. And we want to keep getting that dopamine level or dopamine levels back up again. It's why we're doing this with online shopping. Just click, click, click. And we keep shopping and putting things in the cart. And it's so easy for us to do, to be on the hunt. Not because we necessarily want or need any of these objects, but because we're engaging a system that is a seek and find system, that is a wanting system, not a liking system. So even when the boxes arrived, you've just been doing all this online shopping. And you know how we often forget what it is that we've even bought, right? We're just so caught up in the moment and then we forget about it. So the boxes arrives and it's kind of a surprise. Oh, what's in the box? And you pull it out. Oh, yes, that's right. This ad machine. I forgot that this was the ad machine that was going to finally give me the six-pack abs. Doesn't matter that there's 5 older versions of this ad machine in the garage. This is the new one. It's the new technology. And this motivation reward pathway loves novelty, loves new things. And of course, I imputed on this machine that with this ad machine, I was finally going to want also to do the sit-ups, that I would finally have those 6-pack abs, that I would feel so good about myself when I have the 6-pack abs. And so we get the machine out and maybe we try it a couple times and we think, oh yeah, that's not too bad. Again, a little novelty, a little newness. And we put it to the side. Let's pace ourselves, right? And then a couple weeks go by and we realize, I'm not using the machine. I might as well go put it in the garage with all the other things. And you look around at all the things that you have in your garage and you think, who bought all this junk? You did, because you did it with a wanting system, not a liking system. And the Tibetans have a great saying for desire. Desire puts feathers on things. It makes things look prettier than they really are. Our prefrontal cortex imputing all these qualities on all of these objects that they don't actually have. So when you're looking around the garage at all of this junk, take a look on the floor at all the feathers that have fallen off. It's why you could walk into your closet filled with clothes and genuinely say to yourself, I have nothing to wear. Who bought all these outfits? And just look on the ground again. All the feathers are there. It's a wanting system. It's not a liking system. And because we impute all these qualities on these objects, amping up our wanting, we end up with all this junk that we don't even like. And not to mention that, of course, all the credit card debt that we rack up with this, all just the disappointment of all of this stuff that we have that was supposed to make us happy because that's what we told ourselves, not making us happy. And we can see this when people buy new houses, and the realtor often will take the couple to a house that's just a little out of their price range. I know you can't really afford this one, but I just wanted you to see this house. They understand this pathway because they're in the house and they're looking around and like, wow, this house is amazing. Wow, this house is fantastic. Of course it is. You were expecting something in your price range, and now she's taken you somewhere else. And in all of this, you're looking at the house and you're imagining yourself, if this was my house, I'd be so happy in this house. I would never be stressed again. I'd never be upset again. I'd never want for anything else again if I could just have this house. And the wanting becomes so great because we imagine ourselves in the house, eternally happily ever after. This is a magic house, and I have to have this house. So we start negotiating with ourselves. What can I do to afford the payments? I'll give up my coffee at Starbucks each day. I'll give up my gym membership. I'll give up my, I won't go shopping for 6 months, for 10 years. I won't go on holiday. I won't see my therapist anymore because I'm not going to be stressed anymore. I'm not going to be upset. This is a magic house. This house is going to completely transform and change who I am. It's going to take away all my cares, all my worries, and I'm never going to want for anything again. We're putting feathers all over the house. We're imputing qualities on the house that the house does not have. And after we're in the house for a while, and it's still a lovely house, we can still love the house. In fact, in this situation, we can still like the house. It can be lovely. But the feathers do start to fall off because now we're starting to feel stressed again. We're starting to have worries again about whether we can make the payments. We're starting to wish that we could have our Starbucks coffee each day or maybe go talk to our therapist about what's going on, but we can't do any of those things anymore because we gave all those things up because we believed the house was going to fundamentally change who I was, imputing qualities on the house that it doesn't have, and thereby being disappointed once again. I thought this was going to do it, and it didn't. And this is what we're doing all the time with this system. When we kill ourselves to get the next promotion, the next job title, the next bonus or pay raise, and we'll ignore our family, ignore our friends, ignore our health, not eating properly, maybe drinking too much, not getting enough sleep, because we have told ourselves, if I can just get that next promotion, if I can just get that bonus and have that little bit extra money in the bank, then I'll feel like it's enough. Then I'll be satisfied. Then I'll feel good about who I am. But then we get there, and it feels good in the beginning. Of course it does. But then it starts to taper off again. It's not a seek and find and be satisfied system. We get the dopamine wears off and we're like, oh, I still kind of feel like the same person. I've just got a new title. I've got a little bit more money in the bank, but actually it's not quite enough. I actually need a little bit more because we're trying to find satisfaction by quenching our thirst with salt water. It doesn't quench our thirst. We just want more. It's never enough. And the other challenge for us with this pathway is that the rewards that we're getting, I mean, the reward is meant to be, yeah, you found water, you found food, you found caves, you found things that you needed for survival. So there was a certain, like, yay, I really got something that we needed. But in all of these situations, assuming you already had a house, assuming you already had a job, they're not really fulfilling any need for you whatsoever. And even worse, the expectation that we put on these things of how we think they're going to make us feel, and the fact that they cannot make us feel this way, creates just even bigger disappointment for us, because we keep trying and trying and trying. You're trying for I'll get a new partner, I'll get a new job, I'll move, I'll get a new house. We're trying to do all of these things, thinking that in some way these changes on the external world are going to change how we feel on the inside. But all it does is leave us feeling more disappointed, more dissatisfied, more unhappy. And when we even take this out to new technology, cell phones, social media, news, email, texting, gambling, Netflix, YouTube, drugs, but we'll actually just stick with the phone, just all of those things that we can get, that we have access to on our phone. Our little lizard brains just can't handle that, because there's no real effort that's needed for that. We just reach for the phone and we get that anticipation of the reward, because at one time, those things all had a big reward for us. I mean, the first time that we got a text, it's like, this is amazing. The first time we got an email, this is amazing. Or the first time we did go on social media, oh my God, this is amazing. All these people are on here that I haven't seen for years, and they're liking my posts and they're commenting, and it's feeling really good, and I'm liking theirs and I'm commenting, and we're getting these big boosts of dopamine, and it feels really good. But then we keep going back to these things, trying to get that high, the original high, and it never meets that expectation. I mean, even every now and then we'll go on and there will be some exciting news, and we get that high from the exciting news, but we're not satisfied. We just keep going. We keep looking for more and more. We got that good news, now I want more. I got to feed the beast. It's a wanting machine, or wanting pathway. It's not a liking pathway, it's a wanting pathway. If we're on social media and we're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, seeking and finding, wanting, but not finding anything that's really making us feel that good. So the disappointment just gets greater and greater and greater. And in fact, every one of these things, anytime you have an immediate short-term spike in dopamine without any effort up front. And we did a class, and there's a video on YouTube, I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, about this, about the pleasure and pain, that anytime you have a short-term reward, no effort had to be put out whatsoever, what happens is you will experience, at some point, you will experience pain equal to the high. And we could think about it just like a drug addict. They have their baseline dopamine, they do the drugs, big spike. Just, you go on social media, there's something interesting, you get a spike. Let's say you were tagged in a post, or you got all these likes or comments or something, and you get that spike. But then that spike has to come back down, and it doesn't just come down to your baseline where you were before. It drops below, and you feel really bad. And that is the fact of how the system works. If you get a short-term spike without any effort whatsoever, a short-term spike in dopamine, feeling pleasurable, I would argue, and we'll discuss this a little later, it actually doesn't feel that good if you really look at it. But it feels better than a kick in the gut. It feels better than the dopamine disappointment, relatively speaking, I'll give it that. But when you have that spike, you have to crash. And this is inevitably what always happens. And just like the drug addict that just keeps going back, it's not even giving them happiness anymore, because the baseline keeps getting moved. They're just looking to feel normal. And they're doing behavior that it's not making them happy, but they can't stop. It's a wanting behavior. It's a wanting pathway. It's not a liking pathway. And this is today where kids, particularly young kids, spending so much time on their phones, on social media, they're not happy. Their rates of anxiety and depression are rising as well, and suicide. Young boys, the amount of time they're spending with pornography, it's a wanting system. And they just keep wanting and looking and searching and searching. There's no satisfaction. And there's no beneficial reward in any of these systems for us. In social media, in getting likes online, that's not teaching us how to be social, to interact with others, right? Just by getting the most amount of likes. When I think of all the influencers, how miserable their lives are, and they are, because some of them will finally come forth and say, it was all a lie. It is a lie. Every moment of their day, they're trying to think about, how can I make this look more exciting, more fun, to get more likes? It's a wanting system. It's not a liking system. It's not a satisfaction system. And again, young boys, through pornography, not learning how to go out and interact with women, or young men going out to be with women, and think of what their expectations are after looking at all of this pornography. It's not realistic for the world. And it's bringing them a lot of pain and suffering and unhappiness. The news for all of us, like, that's an addiction. You know, we need the outrageous headline, even when the story doesn't match. And we just keep seeking and seeking and seeking, seeking and finding, but never finding satisfaction. It's a wanting system. It is not a liking system. And no matter what, anything that we experience in the world that is pleasurable will eventually turn to pain. The best massage in the world, first hour, it's amazing. Maybe the second hour, oh, so good. The fifth, the sixth, the seventh hour, get me off this table. This is miserable. Don't touch me anymore. The best piece of chocolate cake in the world. The first bite, oh, it's heaven. The first whole piece, oh my God, delightful. A second piece for me, still okay. Is that right? The fifth, the sixth, the seventh piece, we're ready to throw up. Get that thing away from me. So whatever is external from us, even something pleasurable, something we do enjoy, it itself cannot give us continuous happiness. And the more we consume it, those returns diminish to the point where it becomes painful. And this relates in that we are looking at things in the external world to try and make us happy. And these things cannot do this, not with the pathway that we are working with. And yet, we need this pathway. We wouldn't do anything without this pathway. So we need the motivation reward pathway. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we do need to understand how it works. And I just referenced the video or the class from a few months ago, and I'll put a link in the description box. In fact, I'll link it to the last at the end of this video. If you are willing to put some effort in up front, you know, what we might call pain, but it's not really pain, it's just some effort up front. The same way, if you get that initial spike of dopamine, the pain is going to follow. If you do it in the reverse order, put the effort in up front, you will get the pleasurable feeling in the end, not in a big spike, but in a nice kind of a better arc. And you will also have done something that was good for you. So when we do things like, instead of going on social media for 20 minutes, meditating, that requires effort. It's not painful, but it does require effort. And then we get the good feeling. We get the dopamine after actually it starts to rise maybe middle of meditation. We're definitely not getting it in anticipation, which is one of the reasons it makes it so hard for us to go and do things like meditation. We don't get that reward, or we don't get the anticipation of dopamine driving us to go do it. Doesn't see it as a survival benefit. And yet in the 21st century, it is absolutely survival for us today. It wasn't 100 years ago or 200 years ago. It is today. So when you put down your phone and you go and meditate, you get the good feeling afterwards, not in a big spike way, but in a nice pleasant, like I've accomplished something kind of way. You get that motivation feeling. Plus, you've done something that's good for you. And if you're willing to, instead of get home and crash on the sofa and watch Netflix, instead go to the gym for an hour, put some effort into something, you'll get the good feeling afterwards. You'll feel better. Plus, you did something that was good for you, something that really is a reward. That if you're willing to take the time to go in the kitchen and make a salad instead of have pizza delivered, get that initial spike that you would get from the pizza, the initial dopamine spike, and then the pain that follows. Instead, to say, I'm going to go and do something that's good for me, you get the good feeling afterwards. Plus, you did something that was good for you. So we do need to understand that that when we use this pathway responsibly, we actually feel better and we are doing things that are helping us, genuinely helping us to survive. Meditation, eating better, exercise, going for more walks, going outside, instead of going on social media, going and meeting friends for dinner, catching up with some friends in person, not virtually. And we feel better. We know this is scientifically proven. We've got to flip the way we're using it. And it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy short-term pleasures, that we can't enjoy the latte, we can't enjoy the massage, the good conditions when they arise, the piece of chocolate cake. Of course we do. But we understand it's a short-term temporary blip. Feels good. Don't deny it. We're not trying to deny ourselves anything here. But understanding getting my latte is not going to change who I am. Getting the massage is not going to change who I am. It's a nice, pleasurable experience, and it's a temporary experience. It comes and it goes. It's impermanent. And when we understand that and stop putting our expectations on the latte, the chocolate cake, the shopping experience, the new job title, the getting the new house, all these things, understanding there's nothing wrong with wanting a new house if you can afford it. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make more money. There's nothing wrong with wanting to grow and get the new job title. Push yourself a little bit. Nothing wrong with any of those things. But we've got to be careful about putting the feathers on those things. Imagining that in some way, if I can just get to this next thing, then I'll be happy forever. Because those things cannot do it for you. And we do have this tendency to impute qualities on these external events, goals, objects that they don't have. And then it just leads to more disappointment because we kill ourselves trying to get there. And then we're disappointed because it didn't fundamentally change who we are. It didn't complete us, make us eternally happy the way we expected it to. So we can enjoy the journey, enjoy the working hard, if it's something that you do want to do, but you don't have to ignore your family, your friends, your health over it, because that's not healthy. That's not wise. It doesn't mean you can't work a few late nights, but to really have balance in it, if you really understand this next job title isn't going to change my life. It's going to be something different, but it's not going to change who I am. So we can keep the things that are important to us, our health, our mental stability, our emotional stability, our family, our friends. We can keep all of that in check. We can make sure we don't lose those things along the way, pursuing a goal that isn't going to deliver what we think it's going to deliver. So, in order to be able to be more aware of the system. Aside from the fact that just having this class, we've brought more awareness to what's really happening. We do need to bring a lot of mindfulness to this. We need to be more aware of what's happening in our day-to-day experience, because a lot of the time this is just happening at kind of an unconscious level. Our thoughts are just wandering. We know, we talked about that last week, the mind wandering, just going out into the future. Oh, if I can just get over there, I'll be so happy. If I can just get that latte, I'll be so happy. If I can just get that promotion, I'll be so happy. And that pulls on the wanting system, and we're just led along without even realizing what's happening, and not even realizing it doesn't feel good. I can remember the first time that I was shopping after being aware of the system and starting to find a lot of things. And I could feel this like craving inside of me, this chasing, this wanting. And I thought, this doesn't even feel good. But I was in the frenzy of it. I could feel the frenzy that as I was finding more and more things, the hunt, and it was like, get more, get more, get more. And I thought, this feels awful. I don't like this feeling at all. So we do have to be really mindful of that feeling. And as I've said for the last 2 weeks, or I think hopefully I'm always saying, but in this series, you don't notice the thoughts so much, but you notice the feeling. You notice that coiling inside. And in this sense, in this situation, it's the craving for the object, the experience, the event, whatever it is that we're imagining we're going after in the future, whatever it is that we're chasing. So bringing in our mindfulness practices, breathing into it, creating space for the energy. Usually a craving, depending upon what it is, if you're giving up cigarettes, that craving could last a few minutes. If you're giving up drugs, it could last a little bit longer. But usually for the cravings that most of us are experiencing, it's probably 60, 90 seconds. Just breathing into it, creating some space, allowing that the dopamine levels to come back down, not in a crashing way, but in a more moderate way, like, oh, wow, I was really swept up in that for a moment. So breathing into it. Maybe you were about to click next episode on Netflix, or you were searching on YouTube and you're like, wow, let me breathe. Let me pull myself out of the wanting. So bringing our mindfulness practice into it, to be aware of what's happening and to pull ourselves out of the wanting. It will never end. And we never end up happy. This is what we have got to see. It's what's happening. It's just whether we're seeing it or not. And then we're going to bring in our first of 5 mantras today, our mindful mantras. And all of the mantras are based on the default mode network, on the ways in which we think in the default mode network. And the first mantra is, peace is not chasing. And what we're looking at here is that chasing. Peace is not wanting, peace is not craving. You can change that word if you want to. I like chasing because, again, it denotes that part of the default mode network. We're going out into the future, we're imagining ourselves in the future getting this goal, and we're so happy, or we just imagine ourselves somewhere other than where we are now, putting all the feathers on it. Future me that is always so happy, future me that has no stress, has no worries, has no concerns. Imagining ourselves in the future, chasing that image of ourselves, a future me that's happy. Peace is not chasing. And I put it in this way because I want to show you what it is that is stopping you from being peaceful. It's not that we're trying to add things on. We're trying to take things away. Peace is our natural state. It is our true nature. But we keep chasing and resisting and comparing and judging and narrating. And because we spend so much time in those ways of thinking, we don't experience the peace. We know that peace is being present, peace is accepting, peace is here and now. But what is stopping you from being present? from being here and now, the chasing. And that's what we're going to look at this week. And as you're doing the mantra, and I'm going to show you in a moment a way to count the mantras on your hand, as you are saying the mantra in your meditation, peace is not chasing. If any thoughts arise around this that are validating, or any thoughts about chasing, wanting, craving, and you can see for yourself, wow, I was killing myself to get that job promotion, and I got the job, and after a while it was like, didn't quite do it like I thought it was going to, or that next partner, or that next big house, or the next big holiday. Not that there was even probably some excitement and happiness around those things, but it's like, man, it didn't really complete me the way I thought. Man, I do have 5 ab machines in the garage. Why do I keep buying them when I'm clearly not liking them or using them? Looking for evidence in your own life to see if this is true or not, because that is the only way that you will make change, is if you see for yourself. It's not making me happy the way I'm telling myself it's making me happy. And you might even notice in the meditation that at some point your mind is just is chasing the end of the meditation. And you notice that and you're thinking, oh, this isn't peaceful either, right? And you feel it real time. Yeah, I'm already telling myself, what am I going to do when we're done with this meditation? What am I going to do later tonight? And I'm chasing, I'm craving, I'm wanting. Doesn't feel good. So you want to see that evidence for yourself. And because we will have said the mantra probably 50 or 60 times in the meditation, it will be more in the forefront of your mind. You'll notice, maybe tomorrow you're standing in line and you notice your mind chasing, wanting to just get to the next thing, just chasing the next moment, that little bit of dopamine, oh, get there, get the reward of getting to the next moment, of getting out of this moment. And you'll notice it. Peace is not chasing. And you'll think, oh, peace is not chasing. This doesn't feel good. And you'll breathe and come back, bringing your mind back into your body. And without that pull to the next moment, you'll feel more peaceful. Nothing will have changed. You didn't just walk out of the line then and say, forget it, I don't want this anymore, whatever's in your cart. Everything's still the same. It's just that you're not chasing. You're more present. You're happier. And you might even do the mantra while you're standing there and doing the count on your hands. So let's talk about that. And there's a couple reasons for doing the count on your hands. First of all, and I want you to use your left hand to do the count because I want to engage the right hemisphere of our brain. Remember, the right hemisphere of our brain is more seeing the whole picture, connecting the dots, mindfulness. It's a much more holistic hemisphere in our brain. We want both hemispheres of our brain, but we need more balance to the right side. And when you are counting on your fingers, you are also engaging, of course, the motor cortex in the right hemisphere of your brain. So we're bringing in another neural network, along with the saying the mantra, the prefrontal cortex, part of the motivation reward pathway. So it's connecting more parts of your brain, and the more parts that we can have involved, the more likely you are to remember this. First, bring together the top of your thumb and the top of your pinky. This is the first count. And you'll silently say to yourself, peace is not chasing. And then go to the middle, peace is not chasing. The crease, peace is not chasing. And then just go to the top of the next finger, middle, crease, top of the next finger, the middle, crease, top of the next finger, middle, the crease, start again at the top of our pinky. And as you say, it's one full inhale and exhale for each mantra, for each count. Peace is not chasing. Peace is not chasing. Peace is not chasing. It's actually quite relaxing to say it because we spend so much time in chasing mode and we keep saying it and go, oh, there it went again. And you keep bringing yourself back. You are pointing yourself in one of the ways that you are most taking yourself out of the present moment. So it keeps pulling you back. It's really showing you where your mind is going, what is preventing you from knowing peace. And we will start the meditation the same way. We'll do the deep breathing, the body scan, the inquiry questions, and then we'll bring in the mantra. We'll do 5 or 6 rounds of the mantra. So again, probably around 60 times saying the words. And then we'll let the mantra go. And for the last few minutes, we'll just have our attention on the breath. And I think you'll find by that stage, it's really much simpler to keep your attention on your breath, because you've been using the mantra as a guardrail to keep reining your mind in, to keep reining your mind in, really showing you where your mind is going. And then by the time you let the mantra go and you've been saying something that's true to yourself, finally, you just feel that sense of peace, and it's much easier to keep your attention on the breath.